We'll sing Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Prajajanaranjana Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Prajajanaranjana Jaya Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militanjena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pongam langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thanks for being here. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. Let's pull it up here. Canto 10, Chapter 21. Okay, looks like we have moved on to the next chapter. The beautiful, beautiful chapter of the rainy season in autumn in Vrindavan, which we have completed, and we're now on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 21, entitled The Gopis Glorify the Song of Krishna's Flute. And we're on verse 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Hare Krishna. One verse today. Normally, sometimes you have a couple verses. One verse and a purport. Okay. Krishna niriksha vanito svarupashilam shrudva chatat pantita venu vivikt gitam devyo vimana gataya smara nunashara Brasyat prasuna kabara mumur vinivya. Just looking at the meter. I think that was right. Okay, Hare Krishna. Translation: Krishna's beauty and character create a festival for all women. Indeed, when the demigods' wives flying in airplanes with their husbands catch sight of him and hear his resonant flute song, their hearts are shaken by Cupid, and they become so bewildered that the flowers fall out of their hair and their belts loosen. Hare Krishna. Purport. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments. Okay, so our purport here is from Srila Prabhupada. This verse indicates, they added that there, that the transcendental sound of the flute of Krishna extended to all corners of the universe. Also, it is significant that the gopis knew about the different kinds of airplanes flying in the sky. In fact, even while sitting on the laps of their demigod husbands, end quote there, so it looks like now maybe Prabhupada's not speaking anymore and it's his disciples, not clear. In fact, even while sitting on the laps of their demigod husbands, the demigoddesses became agitated by hearing the sounds of Krishna's flute. Thus the gopis thought that they themselves should not be blamed for their ecstatic conjugal attraction for Krishna, who after all was a cowherd boy from their own village and thus a natural object of their love. If even demigoddesses become mad after Krishna, how could poor earthly cowherd girls from Krishna's own village avoid having their hearts completely conquered by his loving glances and the sound of his flute? The gopis also consider that the demigods, although noting their wives' attraction to Krishna, did not become envious. The demigods are actually very refined in culture and intelligence, and therefore, when flying in their airplanes, they regularly take their wives along to see Krishna. The gopis thought our husbands, on the other hand, are envious. Therefore, even the inferior deer are better off than we, and the demigoddesses are also very fortunate, whereas we poor human beings in an intermediate position are most unfortunate. Hare Krishna. It was George Harrison who said in his introduction to the very Krishna book that everyone's looking for Krishna, some realize it and some don't. What was it that, if you look up the Krishna book in the beginning, from Apple, it was George Harrison who said, where did he said here? Everyone's looking for Krishna. Krishna, everyone is looking for Krishna, opening words. Some don't realize they are, but they are. Everyone's looking for Krishna. Where does Krishna say in Shastra, specifically Bhagavad Gita, that everybody is making their way to him? Everybody is following his path, so to speak, to put it in his words. Anybody know that? Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, what is it, verse 11? Ye yatam mam prapadyante tang staiva bhajamyaham mama vart manuvartante manushya partha sarvashaha. So Krishna mentions, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Prabhupada here says also similarly in the purport, everyone is searching for Krishna in the different aspects of his manifestation. So this is one of the beautiful things about Vedic theology and philosophy, is that it's extraordinarily inclusive. Inclusive in the sense that it makes room for the various ways in which we approach and experience God. So two people can have different experiences of God, and rather than trying to prove which one is right, they give allowance, well, maybe both are true. They're just different ways of approaching that supreme absolute truth. And when we talk about bhakti, when we talk about Krishna being Swayam Bhagavan, when we talk about when the Bhagavatam itself talks about in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Let's see, where is that verse? This is the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavatam, 10:28. Ete chamsa kalapumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. All of the above mentioned incarnations. So it's going over all the various incarnations. Chapter 3 is entitled, I think, the incarnations of the Lord. Chapter 3 is entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Shri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, the original source of all. All of them appear on planets wherever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. In his purport. In this particular stanza, Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations. He is counted amongst the avatars because out of his causeless mercy of the Lord, he descends from his transcendental abode. So Prabhupada goes on. We won't read this whole purport because it's extensive and don't want to give ourselves time for other things. But the idea that here's what I'm saying is that everyone's looking for Krishna. Some realize it and some don't. Krishna himself mentions as much in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where he says that everyone is following my path. And it's a hallmark of Vedic theology that there's room for people's various experiences of God, and that we don't have to prove one right over the other, but that various experiences of God can be true. There's the verse in the Bhagavatam which talks about the nature of the absolute truth being impersonal Brahman, being the localized supersoul in the heart as Paramatma, and being the supreme person, Bhagavan. And so people can experience God in various ways. But we talk about Krishna being Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So what is it? Is it just saying like, okay, yeah, we're saying all forms of God are okay, but our God is the best God? You know? Does it just seem like some just kind of hierarchical attribution that our God is better than your God? No, it's when you understand what is Krishna, then you can understand where that sentiment is coming from. And Srila Prabhupada explains as much in the introduction to the Nectar of Devotion. I don't know why the Nectar of Devotion, when you go to the Veda base, is so far down. I've noticed that often, but for some reason it's down here. When you go to Srila Prabhupada's introduction, he talks about who is Krishna. He talks about who is Krishna. And so let's find here Krishna. What is Krishna? Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, it has something very beautiful. Yes. I think this is it. The devotees, however, know Krishna does not mean that Krishna is just alone. He's always with his associates. There's a very beautiful Prabhupada talks about who is Krishna and what does Krishna mean, and understanding that Krishna means everything. I'm just trying to find it here. Because it's quite beautiful where Prabhupada talks about what is Krishna. I can't find it here so easily, but maybe it's in the preface. I'm not sure. But there's a part, I'll just start speaking as I'm looking for it. There's a part where Prabhupada talks about who is Krishna. And he says Krishna in some ways that bhakti means devotional service towards Krishna. But he asks the question, well, who is Krishna? And Krishna in some ways means everything. But then also he talks about the idea that the basic principle of the living entity is that we have a general propensity to love someone. No one can live without loving someone else. This propensity is present in every living being. Even an animal like a tiger has this loving propensity, at least in a dormant stage, and it is certainly present in the human beings. So the missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can be happy. So Prabhupada is honing in on this point. He's kind of creating this unifying factor, something that we can all nod our heads in agreement, that everybody is searching for love. Whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, believe in a personal God, an impersonal God, believe in Krishna, believe in somebody else, believe in, wherever your background is, your IQ, your EQ, your SQ, your PQ, your whatever it is, your levels of consciousness. Everyone's searching for love. Everybody has a propensity to love someone or something. And the question is where to direct that love in such a way that we can become happy. Because we all have experience of what it means to misdirect our love in such a way that brings pain, that brings hardship, that brings addiction, that brings sorrow, that brings conditioning and binding and challenge and sets us back. And so the question is that we have, as living beings, we have this incredible, extraordinary power of love in each of us. And learning to harness that love in such a way that I can intentionally direct it where I want to, in such a way, and I have the intelligence and foresight and the awareness to know where to direct it in such a way that brings harmony and happiness and wholesomeness. That whole thing is what we call sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is that practice of learning how to unlock, unleash, discover my innate propensity to love, to learn where to direct my love, and to learn how to do it in such a way that it invokes greater feelings and deeper experiences of divine spiritual love rather than pull me further away from it. So that's what we call sadhana bhakti, and that's the point of the Nectar Devotion. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami is divided into three aspects of bhakti: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. Prema bhakti is that pure, loving expression of divine love. Prabhupada also in other places throughout Shastra would describe how in the material world our desire to serve and love is called kama. It's lust. It's directed towards the self and to the material self and to the extensions of my material self, my body, my family that I only that are connected to me through bodily relations, through my career, through my neighborhood, through whatever it might be, like extensions of my material self. It's kama. But when that same energy is redirected towards spirit, it's called prema. And so prema is that pure love. Bhava is when the first ray, it's described as the first ray of the sunshine of that prema. There's still a little bit of anartas scraped on the inside of the heart, but it's almost completely pure. And so bhava is described to that. But then sadhana is where I don't have that love completely manifested in my heart, but I want it to get there. And the activities of sadhana bhakti and the activities of prema bhakti oftentimes look exactly the same. But one is that I'm trying to invoke love, whereas the other is I'm trying to express love. So when Prabhupada says, the missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can become happy. Sadhana bhakti is that practice of learning how to direct my love in such a way that I and everybody can become happy. At the present moment, the human society teaches one to love their country or family or personal self, but there's no information where to repose the loving propensity so that everyone can become happy. That missing point is Krishna. And the Nectar Devotion teaches us how to stimulate our original love for Krishna and how to be situated in that position where we can enjoy our blissful life. So Prabhupada goes on, and he goes on to mention how our love can be fully satisfied only when it is reposed in Krishna. Our loving propensity expands just as a vibration of light or air expands, but we do not know where it ends. The Nectar Devotion teaches us the science of loving every one of the living entities perfectly by the easy method of loving Krishna. Jumping down, if we learn how to love Krishna, then it is very easy to immediately and simultaneously love every living being. It is like pouring water on the root of a tree or supplying food to one's stomach. So when we talk about Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, why is there so much emphasis? You read the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna almost looks like a megalomaniac. He's just obsessed with himself. Which is also very interesting because so much of the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna is talking about surrendering unto him, offering the results of your activities unto him, serving him. But what is Krishna doing in the Bhagavad Gita? Where do we see Krishna? Sitting as the chariot driver of Arjuna. So Krishna is telling us through his actions, this is a two-way street. This is a two-way street. I want to give and receive love. I don't want to just receive your love. I want to give my love to you. And I'm showing you what it means. Love means service. And so I'm right here serving you as your charioteer, serving you as your guru and as your guidance giver. And I'm just letting you know that this isn't about me in the sense that like I'm lonely and just like got nothing else to do. But this is me knowing that we are built for this. And your loving propensity is designed to direct towards me in a way that will make us both happy. And so when we talk about, so back to our verse and purport at hand, when we talk about the demigods and we're going to learn about, the gopis being attracted to Krishna's flute, Krishna being Krishna, all attractive. We say it every time when we explain the Maha Mantra. Krishna means all attractive. All hearts, what it means is it rests on the idea that all hearts are yearning for love. And that Krishna is God, who is the ultimate reciprocator of our love. And so what does it mean to be a reciprocator of love? It means that God is so personal, that God is so artistic, that God is so beautiful, that God who manifests himself in such a way to fully receive, experience, and reciprocate with your love, that is who Krishna is. That is who Krishna is. And Krishna himself is not his personality is not, I was going to say unidirectional, unilateral, uniform. It's not flat. It's dynamic, and you experience that no other way. It's you get that nowhere else other than in Vrindavan, and also when Krishna goes to Mathura. So what happens when Krishna goes to Mathura and he enters the arena, the wrestling arena, to fight Kamsa? People see him in so many different ways. Let's see if I can pull that up without taking too much time. When Krishna goes to Mathura and he goes to fight Kamsa, anybody knows the chapter, the exact reference? Let's see, Krishna and Balaram enter Mathura. Let's see if it's here. Because when Krishna and Balaram enter Mathura, that people see them in so many different ways. And it describes how people saw them so differently. Can't find it. If anybody knows the reference. Anyways, there's a reference that when Krishna and Balaram enter Mathura, everybody saw him differently, according to their unique relationship with him. And so when we're in Vrindavan itself, even, you have the cowherd boys who see Krishna as like this fun kid that they can play games with. The gopis see him as such a handsome young boy who's stealing their hearts. Mother Yashoda sees him as a son who needs to make sure that his lunch is prepared and he gets home and gets in bed on time. And so each of us are looking at Krishna very differently, but it's all from a viewpoint of love. And so when we say Krishna, we don't just mean something very simple and plain. We mean something very broad and dynamic. And when Krishna is playing his flute, he's calling each of us back. Krishna has a song that he's uniquely playing that he's calling each of us. I'll read this just because it was coming. It's been in my mind and I was thinking of it. I'll share this and then I'll stop and open for questions and comments. This is from Burijan Prabhu's Japa book. Burijan Prabhu is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He wrote a book on Japa. It's very beautiful. At the very, very end, there's a section. He says, feel loved. And he talks about in this section how sometimes it feels like maybe Krishna is absent in our life. Anybody have that experience? Feels like Krishna is absent, or when we are performing our sadhana, it may feel like a lack of reciprocation from Krishna. Like, Krishna, I'm showing up, I'm doing the things, I'm doing the service, I'm chanting the rounds, I'm coming to classes, I'm reading the books, and it feels like sometimes we're looking for more reciprocation from Krishna. And so I'll read just some parts of it. He says, many devotees struggle when chanting because before they can take shelter of Krishna's name, they have to travel through the desert of seeing the truth about themselves, that they have little sincerity and no taste, that the mind is uncontrolled and filled with anarthas, and that they have no power to help themselves. This stage is necessary because it convinces us that we have nothing to depend on except Krishna's holy name. Only when we understand this fact can we chant with a full heart. Queen Kunti says as much when she says that, my Lord, you're easily approachable, but only by those who are materially exhausted. And so sometimes Krishna is intentionally exhausting us materially so that we can come to the conclusion that other than Krishna, there is no other shelter. What is that beautiful, beautiful song? Nitai Pada Kamala. KK songs, Nitai Pada Kamala, the very, 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 very end. Is it this one? The Norton No, or maybe it's what's the song? Other than the lotus feet of Nityananda, there's no other shelter. Is it Koda Nitai? Oda Sukha Kabur Gai? Yeah. Bhakti Vinod Dhake Koi Nitai Charan Bine Ar Nahi Ashroy. Nitai Charan, the lotus feet of Nitai. Nahi, there is none Ashroy, other shelter. Bhakti Vinod calls out, except for the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, there is no other shelter. That's a powerful statement for all of us. That other than the holy name of Krishna, other than my worshipable deity of the heart, other than that sweet and charming cowherd boy, there's nothing else for me in this world. And how far are we from that? And we don't have to feel guilt or shame from that, but we can just feel awareness that that's my work. That's where I want to go. And Krishna can get us there in a moment. But he wants us to feel that with genuine feeling. And so Burja Prabhu goes on. He says, only when we understand this fact can we chant with a full heart. If we're chanting, like, yeah, chanting's kind of cool, and yeah, it'd be nice to get some pure love of God, and hopefully Krishna will come through, but if not, I've got a lot of other things going on, and as soon as I know this job, I got to move on with this, that, and the other, and I got to make money, and I got to worry about what this person's thinking about me, and build my social media empire, and I got to learn how to do kirtan so that I can impress other people and be the kirtan leader, and I got to learn how to, do this and that and the other, and I got to go to my friends, and I'm trying to attract that person's attention, and all these other things. It's like, oh, okay, so Krishna's kind of around here. Yeah, Krishna's important. For sure, Krishna's important. There's a lot of other things that are important too. And Krishna's saying, that's okay. I reciprocate. As you surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. And so Krishna is waiting until when? Until when? Until that final instruction of the Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharmam prityaja mam ekam sharadam vraja aham tvam sarva papabhyo mokshashyami mashuchaha. Abandon everything and fully surrender unto me, and I shall deliver you from sinful reactions. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Verse 6. Savai pungsang parodharmo yato bhaktir hoksaji ahaitukya pratyata yatma supersedati. That surrender becomes completely satisfying to the self when it's unmotivated and uninterrupted. So Krishna is saying, it's just waiting. And he's calling out on his flute, just keeping the lifeline going, just letting us know that I'm still here. And he's going to keep calling to us, waiting until we're ready. So Guru Prabhu goes on, he says, but it is not easy to cross that desert, and sometimes some devotees give up before they reach the other side. It helps to understand that Krishna loves us and he is with us, even when it appears he is not with us. And he goes on, he tells a beautiful story of when Krishna disappeared even from the vision of the gopis, simply to increase their hankering and their love. So when Krishna disappears from our lives, when Krishna appears to be inactive, when Krishna appears to be unresponsive, what do? Do we think, okay, fine, it's not working. This didn't work. Let me go find something else. Okay, fine, Krishna. If you're not going to show up, I'm not going to show up. Bye. And we give up. Or is it like, there's nothing else for me? I'm not going anywhere. Krishna, I don't care if I need to wait here for millions of lifetimes. I'm not going anywhere else. There's no other shelter. There's nowhere else for me to go. Krishna, you have to come through. Krishna, you promised. Do I need to pull out the very Gita that you spoke, Krishna? Do I need to read you your own words? You promised. I'm not going anywhere, and you're not going anywhere. That is the mood of surrender of devotees, the intensity of love. The gopis, they just went mad in Vrindavan, wandering around, hugging the trees, talking to the bees. Have you seen Krishna? It wasn't like, well, Krishna left, so who else? Who's option B? Surrender of a devotee is when we get to the place where we recognize there's no option B. I'm in it to win it with you, Krishna. I know it's going to be hard. The devotional path is filled with thorns, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions. But I'm willing to walk through it. And not that as I'm willing to do it, there's no other option. My heart belongs nowhere else. There's nothing else that my heart can find satisfaction in. So he talks about that even Krishna disappears from the gopis sometime, simply to increase their love. So he gives this beautiful story from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, how it's important for us to remember Krishna's love for us. So he tells the story in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami to show just how specific Krishna's love is for us. I wanted to talk about this because Krishna is playing his song for each of us. And when Krishna was enacting the rasa dance with the gopis, each gopi thought that Krishna was dancing exclusively with them. So Krishna has a song just for you. Krishna has a dance step just for you. Gopakumar has just returned to the spiritual world. So Gopakumar is making his way through the material universe and arrived in Vrindavan. And he's now waiting on the path where Krishna will appear after day of cowherd. Imagine you're just kind of hanging out waiting. Like when I was in school, I used to wait for my mom to come pick me up. Be sitting there waiting for the green Aerostar minivan to turn around the corner. Sometimes I'd see another car pull up. I think that was her. No, it's not her. Sitting there waiting. I know which way she's coming. So someone says, just wait here, Krishna will be here soon. So you're waiting for Krishna to turn around the corner after a day of coward. Then, quote from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Check my time here. Then from a distance I saw him, his charming flute in hand. There's our flute. Running quickly, he emerged from among his friends and animals and approached me, saying in a sweet voice, "Look, Sridham, here is my dear friend Sarupa." Sarupa is the name of Gopakumar in Vrindavan. "The sun who shines in the lotus of your family." He leaped forward and came close to me, compelled by the affection of his helpless devotee. Again, a helpless devotee. That's the place that we want to be in, as helpless. I fainted in love at seeing him. He took hold of me by the neck, and suddenly he too fell to the ground. In his commentary, Sanatana Goswami writes, Gopakumar was already aware, at least theoretically, that Krishna is very affectionate to his helpless devotees. But now he learned that Krishna had affection specifically for him. Merely seeing Krishna was enough to utterly enchant Gopakumar, but this new discovery pushed him toward the limit of ecstasy. So there's more that we don't have time to read and get into, but there's the idea that when Krishna is calling his flute, he's not just playing his flute and say, okay, well, let's see who comes. He's not just throwing out this wide net and hoping to catch as many souls as possible. He's singing a song specifically for you. He's crafted a melody on his flute that is just for you. And the gopis of Vrindavan are hearing that, and they're willing to give up everything. They're willing to give up everything. And he even mentions here, that that they left everything. And they simply just wanted to go and leave it all behind. Leave it all behind. And so that's what Krishna is calling out. So when we hear this story, Krishna's beauty and character create a festival for everyone. For everyone. Because each of us are looking for love, and Krishna is the source of beauty. Krishna is God who is the source of that love and willing to exchange with us. So that's who Krishna is. And indeed, when the demigods' wives were flying in airplanes with the husbands catch sight of him and hear his resonant flute song, that song, which is Krishna calling each of us back to him, waiting for us to realize there's nothing else in my life that I'm looking for. Because we may even hear that flute song. We hear that flute song every day. When we hear the mantra in kirtan, or when we're chanting in japa, or when we're hearing it right now in Bhagavatam class, or when we're taking darshan of the deity, we hear that flute song every day. The fact that we are in Krishna consciousness, that we have Prabhupada's mercy in our life, that we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy in our life, that Krishna has found us. Every time if you have a picture of Krishna in your home and you see Krishna on your altar on the wall, that's Krishna playing his flute song for you. And for those gopis in Vrindavan, because they've given up all of the shelter, their hearts shake as if they've been struck by Cupid. I look at Krishna on the wall and I think, gotta move on. I get the darshan WhatsApp from Jamuna Jaya, and I take a look at it for 2 seconds, and then I gotta keep on scrolling because I got so many other important messages to look at. Why do I not look at the WhatsApp chat of darshan and just be like, oh my God, you know? I got to stop and just put 2 minutes aside and just stare deeply at the beauty of Radha Mulidhar and Gaurachandra. Because I got other things going on, that's why. And they become so bewildered that the flowers fall out of their hair and their belts loosen. Creates a change in them. And then Prabhupada so beautifully mentions to us, the transcendental sound of the flute of Krishna extends to all corners of the universe. There it is right there. That he's reaching out to you. He's reaching out to you. Bhakti Hugo wrote here in the chat. I'll read this from the chat and then I'll pause. He wrote this from the Bhagavatam, this part where Krishna entered into Mathura. The various groups of people in the arena regarded Krishna in different ways when he entered it with his elder brother. The wrestlers saw Krishna as a thunder lightning bolt, the men of Mathura as the best of males, the women as Cupid in person, the cowherd men as their relative, the impious rulers as a chastiser, his parents as their child, the king of the Bhojas as death, the unintelligent as the Supreme Lord's universal form, the yogis as the absolute truth, and the Vrishnis as their supreme worshipable deity. Yeah. So, the bluti. People wrote the bluti. The beauty and the bluti of Krishna. Okay, so I can go on and on. Krishna's playing his flute for you. He's calling you back. And other than the lotus feet of Krishna, there's no other shelter. Okay, Hare Krishna. I left you with 2 minutes. Sorry. Sometimes I ask for questions and comments. We don't have them, so I just keep on going. But if there's any questions or comments that people would like to share, I would love to hear from you.
Dear devotees, it's your turn to dance. Dayal Gauranga Prabhu danced for us. Now it's your turn.
Gail, we got Gail.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I do, just a comment. I just do feel that your class was like Krishna's flute playing for me. So I thank you immensely for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Needed to hear this message today.
We all do. And you know what? We need to hear it again and again and again.
Yeah.
Somebody just sent to me, hold on, let me find it. Somebody just sent to me really, really beautiful. Srila Prabhupada had said this about, again, Burja Prabhu quotes at the time, but I don't know where they got this from. This was from Srila Prabhupada quote, where he either said or wrote, in my books, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is explained fully. So if there's anything in which you do not understand, then you simply have to read again and again. By reading daily, the knowledge will be revealed to you, and by this process, your spiritual life will develop. Letter on November 22nd, 1974, Srila Prabhupada. So this idea of just like continuously exposing ourselves to Krishna's message, we need to hear it daily. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So we all need it, Gail. And no one exemplifies that better than you. So thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhima Prabhu.
Haribo Daya Gauranga. That was wonderful class. Just love it. The way you seamlessly pulled everything together. And once again, like Gail, it's always something we need to hear. It reminds me of something I had just read in a book that I'm sharing with somebody else. This is a Christian book. It's one paragraph here. It's from a French mystic, Jean Goyon. She says, when I speak of this deep inward relationship to God, what do I mean? Actually, it is very simple. It is only the turning and the yielding of your heart to the Lord. It is the expression of love within your heart for Him. And when you gave that class, I was just remembering over and over, this is what we do, and what you expressed is why we do it. If they say that with a why, any how is possible. We often wonder, how will I become a pure devotee? How will I fall in love with God? And that's what this chapter is all about. You know, Krishna's flute, Krishna's bluti, Krishna's beauty, Krishna's trickery, Krishna's games, Krishna's hide and go seek. These are all the things that we need to remember. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Shishi Radha Muladhar ki jai. Flowers out.
Yeah, wonderful. That was Krishna's flute in Vasudeva hands. Hare Krishna, Dayal, Gauranga,
Hare
great pleasure.
Krishna.
Question. Do you have time for one more question?
Quick one, yeah. I have to. I have
Quick
to.
one.
I have to. I'm coming. I'm going to the Bhakti Center in a minute. But
Yeah, yeah.
yes, go ahead.
Quick one. So you were describing how Bhakti is so inclusive and Prabhupada was so inclusive. And I was thinking, yes, Bhakti is inclusive. So therefore, I can watch a materialistic movie like Matrix and derive a philosophical conclusion from it. Even Titanic, the materialistic boat is sinking. I can eat whatever I want. I just offer it to Krishna. I can hang out with whatever people I want. I'll tell them about Krishna. So how not to drift into a full-on materialism, using bhakti as a justification for getting comfortable in the world and going after sense enjoyment. What are the guardrails for a devotee?
That's a great question. And well, there's a difference between, Srila Prabhupada was extraordinarily Krishna conscious. And so you can see through Prabhupada's, especially Prabhupada's morning walks, I think are probably the greatest example when you see Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness and just the ways in which he saw Krishna everywhere, right? And so it's one thing to see Krishna everywhere and to know that Krishna is everywhere and you can connect everything back to Krishna. So that's one thing of just being Krishna conscious. But that doesn't just mean that whatever I do is bhakti. I mean, Krishna mentions whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, make it as an offering to me. But it doesn't just mean that everything is bhakti. You have to understand what is bhakti. And Rupa Goswami very clearly defines bhakti, anyabhilasha shunyam. It's devoid of any ulterior motivation. So it's not selfishly motivated. Anyabhilasha shunyam. Jnana karma jnavratam. It's not covered by jnana or karma or any other means. Anukulyena Krishna nu shilaram bhaktir uttama. It is directed towards Krishna with a desire to please Krishna. And so, how do we know what pleases Krishna? We have our Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And so, bhakti is not a self-directed practice where I just figure it out on my own. You know, even the gopis in Vrindavan, they have senior gopis that they look after and that they understand, okay, no, this is what you do. This is the way that Krishna likes his garlands. This is the way that Krishna likes his lunch. This is the way that Krishna... And so as bhakti, we learn bhakti from those who have bhakti. And so the idea of surrender means I sometimes have to surrender my own conceptions of what I think pleases Krishna to what actually pleases Krishna. And so I think that one, it requires a lot of self-awareness. So Bhagavatam mentions yayatma suprasidati, to completely satisfy the self. I think that naturally we'll find ourselves unsatisfied with that type of expression of bhakti. So one is you can just know the satisfaction of your heart if you're lying to yourself or just trying to get away from something. And also, if you genuinely want to know how to express bhakti, then we need gurus in our life. That's why we surrender to guru, to give us that guidance, whether it's our Diksha Guru or our Shiksha Gurus, and Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So we have those guardrails those are the guardrails to direct us and understand what our motivation is, what brings us closer to Krishna. And really question, is my desire to really serve and please Krishna, or is there something else there?
Thank you, Dayal Gauranga. I think you are like devotionally nailed it. Loose bhakti, overly inclusive bhakti, it's not satisfying. It's not as blissful as surrender.
The definition of bhakti by Rupa Goswami is specifically, Acharyas mentioned that it's important that it's not overly exclusive, it's not overly inclusive or overly exclusive.
Right.
It needs to be exclusive enough that you understand what bhakti is and what bhakti is not. So the definition has what bhakti is and what bhakti is not. So both are there. And a lot of examples are given by acharyas in that regard, which maybe we'll talk about later. But I have to run because I got to get to the Bhakti Center by a certain time.
Thank you. Thank you, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, dear devotees. Andrea, Sundaranandaji, Bhima Prabhu in his barn. Amish, Venetia. We had 39 people. You know, had one more Henry Prabhu joined, we would have had 40. It would have been a record. Okay. All right. It was nice seeing everybody. Come again tomorrow. Don't be overly inclusive in your bhakti or overly exclusive. And tune into Krishna's flute. Jamuna Jaya. Nice. Yes, nice seeing you, Venetia, everybody. Thank you. Hembangi. Yeah, you're all real. You're all personal. Thank you very much. Love you all. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.